All right, we have a new episode today of the Olé Soccer Podcast. I have a very special guest and a good friend that I love to connect with on a probably monthly, bi-weekly basis. We just share ideas, share training sessions sometimes, or just leadership exercises, etc. But Mr. Fawaz Daniels, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you, man. Good morning. I'm doing good. It's a happy Friday.
Happy Friday. That's right. That's right.
Yes.
So we're about mid-March here, 2023. I want to talk about how we briefly met and why I'm excited to have you here on the podcast. A few years back, we connected on social. The power of social media, the power of technology, sharing ideas. And you're not too far from where I am and where the teams I coach and the programs we run here are located. A little north of LA. And from sharing ideas, just connecting on social, etc. One day we were, I think, at Steak Up, I want to say, right? And it just so happens you and I were talking,
Yes.
and this is in I want to say Galway
San
Downs,
Bernardino. Galloway, Galloway.
Galway Downs, right? And we were at Galway.
Coincidentally.
Yeah, and we had never met in person yet, right? And so
Yes.
I think I was early to my game. I think it was early morning, or no, was it late? No, it was late.
Mhm.
Late evening, I believe it
No,
was.
no. It was in the afternoon. I think you grabbed some coffee at the coffee shop. I walked in and I'm like, whoa, there's Walter. I've never
Yeah,
seen him before, but we connected through social media and so
exactly.
forth. Yes.
Yeah, so it was
Yes.
after it was yeah, it was definitely at Steak Up. I remember that. I was having a coffee, I was sitting down by myself in the corner, just kind of reminiscing the,
Yes.
the day, the plan and how things went or how things are going to go for the next day. And all of a sudden you walk in and I'm like, "Hey, what's up, coach?" And so we connected, we sat down, and then we just continued to talk, in person. So it was great to connect that way. So the power of technology, the power of connection, also the power, the law of attraction to find people that can help you grow, and share ideas. So ever since
Yes.
then, maybe 4 years maybe back or so, we've been in contact
Yes.
and shared again ideas on things that we're doing, how we're doing things. I think it's great to stay connected and to, even if it's not someone that is in your, you could say, inner circle, but someone like yourself, coach, that have a huge amount of respect for, because you have a growth mindset. I've noticed that about you, and I gravitate towards those type of coaches and people because people like yourself, they want to learn more, they want to do better. And so I'm excited to hear your story. So enough of that. So that's basically how we met. I want everyone to get to know your story, how you started with the sport, and where this journey of this crazy soccer world started for you. So tell us about yourself.
Yes, just to touch on what you just said about the way I connected with you was when the COVID thing happened, and then there was a lot of seminars, a lot of podcasts, and so forth online. And then I followed your club, and I followed all the personalities that you interviewed, etc. And then I had a great interest, and then that's how I actually reach out to you, and then you connected me with some coaches as like this guy would be a great resource as a mentor, and then you would always recommend books and so forth. So you are very resourceful in that sense. So, and since that time, I've been kind of following your content on Instagram and so forth. And I have to say, sometimes I actually steal a lot of those things
You
because
know?
it resonates with me. You know what I mean? Because the detail that you provide, a lot of platforms doesn't provide the details. You know what I mean? And for
Mhm.
me to kind of look at that and say, wow, I kind of get this, because it's a lot of references, right? And then
Mhm.
because if you want to teach and so forth, you don't teach from a lot of volume, but you teach from references,
Mhm.
but you know the volume.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
from that perspective, but my journey started, I was born and raised in Cape Town, South Africa. I played the sport since I was like 5, 6 years old. I played 3, 4 different sports. You know, I recreational tennis. I played rugby. That's our national sport, South Africa. Cricket, which is almost like going to baseball over here. And then of course soccer. And soccer is like the cheapest sport, right? You just need a ball, you need a field, or you don't even need a ball. You make your own ball, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's where my journey started. Um, and then if I fast forward, my mentor was a guy by the name of Pepe dos Santos. He played in the '66 World Cup for Portugal, but he migrated to South Africa. So he kind of changed my whole perception, because I'm that kid, skinny kid, not as developed, but he's a small guy, pretty stocky, and he made it, So he made it, and then he grouped all these young kids together, but they're not your fast, strong, muscular, whatever, right? So it's just kids that use their intelligence more than anything else. So so that was the influence pretty much. And then by the time I reached my mid-teens, I focused entirely on soccer, and at the same time, near the end of my high school career and so forth, I went to university, but then I played semi-professional in South Africa, and then I played like 1 or 2 seasons, and then I came to the States in 2001. And I started in Santa Barbara. I'm into the medical field, doing imaging, but that's my how I developed the love of the game. And the clubs I played for in South Africa, you've always you were connected with the youth. It's like a community club. So you'll go to practice early, you'll see the kids playing, you join them, you start coaching them as well. Like informally, not like structured, because you're there early. So you set up a game and you play, right? And that's how the connection with the youth, because I've probably been like 5, 6, 7 years their senior, so to speak. And that's how you kind of share your knowledge with the youth, and then you find, okay, and that's the beginning of the journey,
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's very interesting that you say that, because I've been reading more and more about the importance of having kids play multiple sports when they grow up, right? The importance of how they can build connections from, let's say, their love or their passion of whatever sport that is, whether it's basketball, soccer, cricket, field hockey, even, et cetera, right? Hockey. There's so many ideas that are so related. And so what I've been trying to kind of piece together, which experts have already done the research for you, just got to look, is the importance of connecting these especially at young ages, exposing players to play different sports, right? And how much do you think that helped you as a player, in your journey growing up through the sport, to play multiple sports, and somehow, some way through playing, you were able to notice patterns in soccer and in maybe in other sports, maybe basketball, right? And whatever else you did, but something unorganized, right? Unstructured, right? How important is that for kids, and how important is that for you?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I got your question. I think anything you do in life and you spend X amount of time in it, you transfer those skills. If you play a different sport and there's a certain mentality in it, or say, for instance, a certain sport focus on the physical, like say, for instance, if you play American football, or you play flag football, or in South Africa, maybe rugby and so forth, there's a physical nature to it, right? So you do that week in, week out. Or you play cricket, and that's more of a technical game. It's more intelligent game, position-wise, etc., right? And just the environmental and social environment is different. So you take all of that, so you transfer those skills to that particular environment. Like say, for instance, I'm in the medical field, right? So I actually transfer my coaching to the medical field. I actually transfer my medical field experience into coaching. If you're a car dealership guy and you are into sales, etc., then you're going to transfer those skills to your coaching. So it's not. It's I think it's logical. If you spend X amount of time in a certain sport and field, etc., you're going to transfer those skills. If you, like, certain people would say, "Oh, you will never understand because you're not a father." I'm just saying, because you don't have kids, right? So when you become a father example, you you transfer those skills to your group.
Mm. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. No,
because, but that's the way it works, you know. So that's the way it works, I think.
no, interesting. Yeah, and it is true because, for example, um, we talk about this because I'm going through let's say a new coaching course, and there's different things that every sport is different, right? But there's certain sports that are called invasion sports. Soccer is one of them, right? So you invade other people's space, right? So invasion sports, when it comes to basketball and soccer, hockey, etc., they're all very similar because there's a team, there's a group that is invading everybody else's space, right? And then when you're invading spaces and you start to recognize this at young ages, well, hey, I'm not open, maybe somebody else is open to be able to attack that space, right? So you start to recognize that basketball, like I said, hockey, could be soccer, etc. Kids start to pick that up. So I'm curious, how much that influenced you to reach, or even impact, like you were saying, teaching your players now as a coach to be able to break things down in a simple way, just through playing multiple sports, if that makes sense. How impactful was that for you, becoming a semi-pro from playing multiple sports?
No, it's I mean, it's pretty immense in a sense because, like I said, the most important thing that I experienced was just the mentalities in these sports.
Hmm.
And then you transfer that mentality into, in my case, in the game of soccer.
Mm.
So mentality is everything, because the thing is, you can pick up all the other stuff. You can become technical. You can become you can try to understand the game at a higher level, the tactics, etc. But the mentality is crucial because it's the longer you are in the sport, then you realize that if you don't have the proper mentality, then you won't survive. And then you have to be upfront with yourself and honest with yourself, right? Because it's an environment of mistakes. It's an environment of growing. It's not easy.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So for me, the biggest thing that I got from playing these different sports is like the mentality factor. So now if you play a lot of, like sevens, look what they're doing right now, right? With people at the highest level, they're actually they're doing big companies or interviewing them and seeing what their strategies are so that they can apply the strategy in their businesses.
Yeah.
But it's not the tactics. I mean, sorry, it's not the technique. It's not the physicality. It doesn't. That's not. That's not relevant to that environment. What's relevant is the mentality, the breakdown of how you process competition and training, etc. So mentality is fundamental.
Mm.
No, I mean, in terms of like hierarchy, of course,
Yeah.
all the other stuff is important, but
Mm.
number one, mentality.
Yeah. No,
Because
absolutely.
normally in sport, you kind of do it the other way around. You do the technique, you do that. But what I do in my sessions, if I kind of have to jump forward, is I address mentality way at the beginning, way at the
Yeah.
beginning
No,
with
this is good.
everything. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? With technique, with tactics, with everything, with anything you do as a component of the game or life,
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And if you were to say, let's say out of 100%, how much of the game as you start to get older becomes mentality, right? Like what percentage would you feel the game is, right? If
I,
you were
I,
to
it's,
say a
it's
number.
difficult. It's difficult to say percentage, but I can say I'll rather rephrase it or think about it as hierarchy.
Okay.
In other words, number one priority, right? Or at the highest list. You could even like say, what dictates you like what's actually important before even mentality is communication, self-communication, and almost like external communication. Because
Mm.
now you as a human being, you're pretty vibrant, you have ideas and so forth. At the moment you stop talking to yourself or talking to your teammates or the coach, whatever, then that becomes kind of stagnating. It affects your motivation, it affects your confidence, etc. The moment you have open dialogue, open communication, right? So I would even put that higher, and then mentality, and then technique, and then, but they're all infused. It's not all
Isolated.
separate. It's not
Mhm,
isolated. They
mhm.
integral. They integral part of each other. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But I
yeah,
won't say okay, 90% or 75%, 80%, because what does that uh, what does that
yeah.
like really mean? But I'll put it in a hierarchy.
No, that makes complete sense, because if you just focus on the mentality of whatever, whatever it is, you're only really getting better maybe at that specific thing. But let's say if we're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong in what you're trying to explain, right? I'm just trying to process what you were saying, right? Is that within, let's say, in the context of the game of training, it is connected in the exercises, in the way you approach things, in the technique, in the defense, in the offense, in the way you do everything. Everything is connected that involves the mentality aspect of it. Is that right?
Oh yes, oh yes. I mean, you can do a technical exercise example, and then you can have a you can you can have a weak mentality. In other words,
Mm,
you don't take it seriously. You get bored. You don't stay connected. You must have the right approach, right?
yeah,
Type of
yeah.
thing. And this is all a process. And then if you give that over to kids or people in your circle, so if, for instance, now you do something tactical, again, you must have the right mentality through the whole process to get the maximum. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So,
yeah,
so I work like when you speak about mentality, you're not disconnected from the emotions. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Although, because that's again, that's an integral part of it, and that's another kind of a subtopic from that,
yeah.
right? And then when you talk about that, then you're not excluding, example, the priorities and the management of that particular exercise, right? And then
Mhm,
you're not excluding as well the communication that you should continue, because now you're doing high level conditioning. You know
mm,
what I mean? And
yeah,
then at the same time, you're not excluding it when people say, "Oh, you must be coachable." It doesn't just mean okay, I in your mind, okay, I'm coachable, right? But now when you so are you coachable when you frustrated and you melting down, lack of a better term? Are you coachable at that moment? I would rather say, okay, instead of coachable, you say, okay, I'm thinking flexibly continuously.
mm, okay,
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
the thing is, so as you can see, you can't separate one from the other. It's all kind of interconnected. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So when you say mentality, you're dealing with the regulating of the emotions. You're dealing with regulating on your thoughts. You're dealing with prioritizing in management within the exercise. And you keeping yourself flexible in your mentality, because change can happen at any time within the practice, within the game, whatever, bad pass, this, whatever. Uh, so um, that's the way I kind of look at it, in terms of a way to approach it as a reference, as something to work with continuously. So if you have that as a player or as a coach, right, then you can regulate yourself. You could, because now the environment, now we're talking about the environment and what the environment, external factors, etc., how it impacts that. What I just said in terms of a reference.
yeah. Absolutely. That makes total sense, and I hope everyone that is listening, whether it's a parent, a player, coach, or just a fan, understands how, what exactly Coach Fawaz just said, and it's something so critical, but there's so many layers inside of that, what you just said, that we can have a whole podcast episode just dedicated to one specific thing you just said, right? So no, thanks a lot for sharing that, and that breakdown of what mentality is and the way you see it. So going back to, let's say, coaching kids, let's say, going back to this topic, because I think this is a very important topic. When we start working with kids, I get this question, you could say, more frequent nowadays, because I'm getting parents that have kids that are, 8, 9, 10, etc. Right. And there are kids that are showing love for the game, that are showing passion, and they want to get better. And we talk, you and I talk about this all the time, probably, about how kids are just getting so much private training, and they feel like, because the parents so invested and they want their best for the kid, because it's just natural, right? Because they want to give their kids, provide the absolute best. But sometimes they get frustrated. I feel parents' frustration because their kid isn't performing at the level of, I feel like, the investment they're putting in, right? And a lot of it comes down to, hey, my kid mentally, like, they do so well, or those do so well in training, but then come game time, they're like, they talk about what, and they ask me, what books can we read? What websites can we go to? Who can we find, help from, etc. I'm like, these kids are like 8, 9, and 10. I'm like, interesting, right? And I don't have one specific resource, but I wanted to get your take on that. If somebody approached you in that way and asked you, hey, for example, I have a flight 2 kid that really wants to be flight 1. They put in whatever, they put in the work, they could say they do extra. They're not just a two practices a week type of kid. They really like it, right? How would you approach a question like that, on the mentality aspect of, again, the layers you were talking about, and how to approach a player that's trying to perform on the weekend?
Yeah.
What would you say to that parent?
Yeah, you see, the thing is, it's a very loaded type of situation, right? The question, there's layers to it,
Mm-hmm.
because now, example, what I like to do is I like to look at people's faces,
Mm-hmm.
kids' faces. I'm in the medical field. I look at people's faces for the last 20 years, and I read stuff on their faces, right? So the kid maybe have anxiety because of competition, right? So now you notice that, and you address that, and you find techniques and tools to deal with that. Okay. Now, if you're really passionate about a game and you have private sessions, you must understand that, okay, the private session, the coach that's doing the private sessions is not there to make the kid better in the game per se, but there is some sort of improvement in the game, but the kid won't drastically improve. Why? Because private sessions are out of context of the game, right? So the private coach is more as a mentor, like almost like a psychologist, like basically motivating the kid, giving positive reinforcement. The kid feel good about themselves, which is really good. Now, if the kid is not performing, it's easy to see why the kid is not performing, because um, the because of the mistakes being made. Is it because does the kid understand the objective knowledge of the game, like the attacking principles, what to do? And if there's a breakdown in that, then the kid needs to be educated on that. And if there's a mistake on defense, then there's defending principles, and then can figure that out. You can now, with technology, we can record and so forth, and then you can see, and then you can see as well, okay, is this okay? The kid wants to, now you have to be honest with yourself as a player and as a parent, where the kid is playing, isn't that maybe a little bit too much? Isn't the game a little bit too quick for the kid? Maybe the kid needs to be brought down, maybe for a season, and learn these things, because nothing changes about the game. It's just the speed. You can mention that other things change, but generally, the higher you go, the game becomes more simplistic, and it becomes really quicker. You know what I mean? So now maybe the solution is to drop the kid, where the kid becomes a controlling factor in the game, and not just doing things out of reaction. You know what I mean? Because the difference between reaction and instinct, right? Like when people do like really positive things and they do things instinctively, they're creative, like, okay, good. Now kids react to certain things, and they don't see the play, they make certain mistakes. And if this continues, and it's pretty evident to see. Or sometimes the kid shouldn't be played for that long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to play less in order to correct things. You know what I mean? Because now you play maybe for the first 15 minutes and you're like, oh, pretty decent. And now in the 20-minute, 25-minute, you start breaking down, and
Yeah.
then you focus on the last 5-10 minutes.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like almost like, okay, brainstorm, put it on a piece of paper, because it's not one thing per se, right? It could be quite a few things, right? And then you're looking at the influence of the parents, example, right? Now maybe this happens to me as well. What happened to me, that the coach will give one um, instruction, but then the father, specifically the father, will tell the kid, "Hey, I want you to play like this." And now there's a conflict.
Mm.
Now the way the kid plays is very individualistic. It doesn't meet the roles and objective of the team, but it's a very good player.
Yeah.
In practice, players has the highest motivation, so the player wants more reward. So give me the ball, I'll do it. But now I make a lot of mistakes. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
people get dissatisfied as opposed to, hey, okay, what does the coach want from the team? We trust the coach. We understand he's got great knowledge and so forth. If the coach doesn't have it, then talk to the higher ups and say, give this coach training, you know, um, and then you help the coach to improve, etc., etc. But there's that factor as well.
That's huge. That is some of the best advice I've heard, really. When it comes to just breaking it down, that in that way you just broke it down for anybody watching, whether they have a parent, whether they're a coach. So many layers in that, and I feel sometimes, and part of these podcast episodes are for everybody, including myself, those listening, watching. I rewatch these, is the importance of the value that you're receiving through these conversations. Not everybody, there's no way everyone will know everything, and the more we have these type of conversations and learn from each other, and if you are able to grasp something from the advice you just gave, I think one of the most important thing is having an understanding of what the objective is and making sure it doesn't, like you were saying, doesn't conflict with what the coach is saying as well, because I feel that's a huge thing, because parents, I think one key thing that I've noticed is the egos of parents really get in the way of their kid actually learning, and it's a big thing, right? Because we're all competitive, right? But the more we're able to understand it from, you could say, subjective point of view of like understanding, hey, go out there, try your best, of course, learn, do what the coach is asking you. And at the end of the day, this is a team sport, right? How can you help your team?
Usually there's another thing to it, right?
Go ahead.
Like with the kids, right? So the kids leverage the parents sometime emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So the parents always has to bat for the kid, which is right. But how do you do that, right? Because example, the parents doesn't want the kid to come home every practice, every game, and just be miserable, right? You will kind of have those cases. So now the parent fights for the kid, etc. But if all of this is explained to the parents and the kid, and what has to be explained, the objectivity of it. In other words, the honesty and the transparency and the truth. And if you can even show, and even if you can articulate, then there will be much more understanding. In other words, okay, I understand rationally, but emotionally I want this. But I give you the benefit of doubt because truth stands clear from falsehood. Like say for instance, okay, you're not really ready for this team. No, but what about so and so and so and so? Whatever emotional excuses, right, being given. But now you're showing the proof on the video. You're seeing the level. You're seeing, so you're giving all of this, and now it's like, yeah, we see it. So at the end of the day, in the long run, people will, even if they don't like it, they will appreciate the honesty and the transparency and the objectivity, etc.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though they are emotionally torn, if that makes sense.
No, of course.
Because they have that bias, you know what I mean?
Of course.
So therefore, I think that's like coaches are not like just merely coaches anymore. So it's like our role is more, almost like creating communities with our teams and our parents and our kids and so forth. Because it's not like so many years ago where the parents just send the kids and they play and then we'll just drop them off and they go do their thing. And now everybody's involved. The mother and the father is at the practice, they're watching, maybe not the father, maybe not the mother, maybe just the father, maybe just the mother. They at the games, they spend a lot of resources. So that's only right to involve them in the development. And if you can articulate your way and your philosophy and everything way at the beginning and give them feedback and so forth, then they will understand. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's great advice. Great advice. I appreciate you you going into those details with that, because I think we're seeing that again. Those are questions I'm getting, and I feel like you providing that insight from your point of view will help out a great amount of people that are watching, right? So I want to move a little bit into, what you're currently doing. You as a now coach, because I know you coach a few different ages, and I want to know, the approach of why you decide to coach high school, why you decide to run your own program, why do you decide to run a futsal program, why do you decide to
Yeah.
coach club, etc. Like I want to know a little bit more about your why in coaching now, where you're at after you played, what is it that motivates you? What is it that keeps you going? You have a full-time job, you have a career, but you still love and have a huge passion for sport. What's your feel right now?
Yeah, so I coach at the local high school over here, the Gora High School. I have my own program with my own label, Phoenix Academy. I I coach at the local club, Hooks FC. I do and just do and um, write things as well, but not that I disseminate. But I'm pretty much involved in almost like not everything, but a lot of things within the game. But what drives me, what I discovered is sometimes you don't know, you're just kind of doing things because things are fun, etc. But what I discovered, I like to help people.
Mm.
That's my big drive. And then soccer is a good vehicle with helping young people. So I like to help all people, may it be the parents, may it be the kids, may it be coaches, may it be um, you know, and by having that love, I could even say I just have a love for knowledge, you know. So it's kind of all connected. But the game of soccer is so it's very broad, and the spectrum is it's humans, it's chemistry, it's psychology, it's 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 emotions, it's mentality, it's just a whole gambit, it's like but if I have to come down to one thing, it's like I love helping people.
It's a great answer. So good. That's your North Star, right? And I think for you, I feel like, just from talking to you, it really resonates with me, because I see that in your posts. I see that in the way you coach and the way you speak. It's always with with the goal of getting better to help serve, right? To help other people get to where they're at, to where they want to go, right?
You see, if you think about it, right now, I'm serious. Okay, I'm getting a little philosophical, but if you think about it, like if you just observe the human being, if
Mm,
you observe the little kid, if you observe the adult, if you observe yourself, it's fascinating.
mm. Yeah.
Like we like form, we like movement, we like people to talk, and if they're like really talented in certain things, it amazes the human being. It's like a show, something to be proud of. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
go to the soccer field, like you see the boys and the girls, they're coming out with their different personalities, they're creating a little buzz and so forth. Now they start playing, so then somebody says something cute, somebody says something that somebody has a meltdown, and now you have to kind of take out the toolkit and, so to speak, but it's just a human experience. So
Mm,
for me, I'm really fascinated by people,
Mm.
how they think, how they behave, how they look. So it's almost like forever, because we're pretty much here forever. You know what I mean? In that, philosophically speaking,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know what I mean?
It's an interesting way of seeing it. Wow. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because at the end of the day, it is it is a way of dealing with so many things at once, right? You're thrown so many different scenarios, situations, emotions, and you need different tools, you need different skills, especially as a coach, right? And where do you tap
Yes.
into these resources to help you as a leader? Like, where do you find inspiration? Where do you go to coaching courses? Where do you find, information that helps you as a person, as a leader?
To be honest with you, my greatest resource, right, are the kids,
Mm,
because I study them, right? I like look at their faces, I study them, I listen to what they say, I see the dynamics in between them, and then with my life experience and the way I am as a person, then I kind of configure things or help out or say some certain things. You know what I mean? But my my role model in terms of education is Raymond. Raymond, I call him the Pele of football, soccer education.
yeah,
And I've met him recently, but I've followed him for maybe about 3 years or so. Fascinating, right? And then anything I can get my hands on in terms of like reading and so forth, motivational books, people that's been successful, um, 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 you know, great leaders in the past, like the Romans, the Greeks, the Arabs, you name it, the different sayings, stuff like that.
yeah,
The other person right now that I like to kind of read from is Dan Abrams, the psychologist from
yeah,
England, you know, and then and just the different coaches in the world, to kind of see their mentality, what they say. You know what I mean? You don't need to read a lot about them when they get interviewed. There's certain things that they say that's so deep, but some simplistic, that sums up their way.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. No,
And
absolutely.
then it's always that journey through complexity that arrives to simplicity,
Mm,
and that is you, whoever that may be, but and that's uniquely you. In other words, through all my experiences and goals and achievements that I've made, and I went through some sort of complexities to arrive to simplicity. Now I bring that into my coaching sphere.
mhm,
But what I bring into the coaching sphere is the simplicity of it,
yeah,
and not the complexity of it. Like, say, for instance, I went to university and I had all these struggles and so forth, and 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 I achieved what I achieved. And then you look back and you're like, okay, maybe I could have. That wasn't that difficult, but maybe through those struggles, there's certain simple rules, simple principles that comes out. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Maybe
yeah.
but you kind of get the point, right? So it's
Mhm.
always, if you understand that you have to go from complexity sometimes to simplicity, and then you take that simplicity and you put it into environment as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. And I think that's the key thing. And that's, I think, one of the most difficult things that any leader or any person that is trying to help others do is simplify things, because the more information we receive and the way that we learn things doesn't mean that the players, in this case, the players we serve, are going to learn the same way that you are, right? Or the way they process things. So the importance of stages and ages, I call them ages and stages, that you are in charge of, are important. So I know you work with high school ages as well. So how do you break things down for them compared to, middle school kids, elementary kids, to prepare them not only for, the high school season, but far beyond that? What approach do you have as a coach?
you see, the thing is, my experience in high school, right? It's like, you mentioned it early on. when you asked, what is your why? What motivates you? What's your motive? Now you'll see in the high school game, the motive is different. People want to win and they want to do well, like in club soccer, etc. But the motive, the hierarchy in motive is um, the social aspect. So the social aspect in high school is massive.
Yeah.
Meaning like I'm on this team and I'm on the varsity or JV team and that takes more precedence than anything else. In other words, what are people saying on my close saying, I am on this team. So they will compromise their standards to kind of look cool, appear cool, and so forth. But they just happy being on the high school team for social reasons. That's very. I have to be honest. There's only a few minority, like 2 or 3 or 4 kids that are there like from the get go, for the right reasons. In other words, I'm here to improve. The school is building a program to build character and and the school has a particular motto, blah blah blah. So we want to live up to that. In other words, everybody must buy into this collective, right? But now you have your individual expectations and preference, which you should have, but it shouldn't go contrary to the spirit, contrary to the ethos of what's being done. You know what I mean? But I think that just the social aspect of it, like I am on the high school team, so that takes precedence because the standards at high school is low, even though most of the kids they come from club soccer too, because the standards at club soccer is high.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now they come to high school, right? Say for instance, you were started at your club. Now you're coming to high school, and you're not. Ooh, that's tough.
Yeah.
So now you might creating.
Cutting out, but let's see. Still there?
So say for instance you have a club player coming into high school, but he starts on his team at high school, sorry, at club, and now he comes to high school and he doesn't. Now you can imagine the social factors around that, right? You have the whole you know the girls, the teachers, the everything around school per se. They have their own news channel, they have their own Instagram, they have their own stuff, right? So this is all connected that sends information out throughout the school. So if you don't make your high school team, it's even more disappointing for the kid, especially if he doesn't have self-regulation, emotional regulation, and so forth, right? And say, for instance, he doesn't play a lot on his high school team, so that problems are being created within the team. And then you have a short period of high school, barely 3 months, right, to get people together and so forth, right? And now, and the mandate at high school is win. It's not development, it's win, because they want to create a situation almost like a real life situation. If you're good enough, you play, and if you must be kind, you must be nice, you must act out of with character. There's a bunch of standards that you have to uphold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think the quality of the high school game will go up if the kids buy into the basic standards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Focus, be coachable, show up early, you name it, you know what I mean? Type of thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And when you start the season, you still hear me? So when you, for example, just briefly, like your approach when you start the season, what is your approach to new players that come in on like the standards you set, to what the expectations are for the players as they arrive, right? What's your personal approach on that when it comes to high school soccer?
Basically, number one, I set the standards. I give them the standards. I have them like buy into the standards. I don't even just give standards. I propose, and then we go through the standards, and we look at we create certain scenarios. Like say, for instance, would you want to be part of a team that's always late? I'm just saying,
Mhm.
what happens with a team that's always late? Okay, fine. Okay,
Yeah.
what happens with a team that's early? And early means 10 minutes before scheduled time,
Yeah.
right? What happens with that team? How's the culture in that team? Okay, which part of it do you which part?
Ready?
So basically, I go through the standards and I look at the positive side of it and the negative side of it, and I let the kids choose right there in front of me. So
Yeah.
there's buy-in, they understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But later on, some of those standards will be violated, will be crossed,
Mm.
right? But now you have you go through it not in a punitive way, but say, hey, we talked about this. What are you going to be? Now they might be apologize, and then we move on. But I try to get the group together around standards, and the highest standard in terms of hierarchy is communication. If you don't communicate well or effectively, then that can be the coach too. So I put myself in there too. So you can come to me and you can say, Coach, um, the way you said that, maybe I didn't appreciate it or whatever, and then I can learn how to deal with you per se, or um, because now we're with this technology, right? Team Snap and so forth, right? Because if the communication in the team is kind of broken, then it won't be smooth sailing because there's other issues down the line. Real soccer stuff on the field, off the field, specifically on the field, that uh, that is even more complex and more, to deal with. But if the communication is good from the get go, from the coach and the players,
Yeah.
then it's kind of smooth sailing from that point onwards. Then you don't need to. It's like you don't need to deal with that stuff that you have to deal with already from the beginning. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And then I deal with certain things that everybody can abide by.
Yeah.
In terms of like, again, I call it the mental reference. I have a mental reference for that. If you don't comply with this mental reference, you it will be to your disadvantage.
Yeah.
Right? And a simple mental reference is like, example, if you're on a playing side, oh, you must you must play with effort, you must play with energy, you must play with intensity, and you must be positive in adversity. So everybody can do that no matter what moment of the game. Use that reference, right? So what the only reason why you won't play at your maximum, right, is because you are frustrated or you're disappointed or you got triggered. But your feelings in the game doesn't mean anything. While you're playing the game, like I tell my players, really, you don't you shouldn't have feelings in the game that will make you try less, make you have negative body language. You know what I mean? And that takes a while. That takes quite a number of practices, quite a number of games to kind of get conditioned. You know, because like the saying goes, right? Um, um, to win games, you need more than talent. To make it, you need more than talent.
Yeah.
So it's basically to overcome yourself within the game that's emotional, so that you can maintain high effort, you can maintain high intensity, you can maintain high energy, you can maintain positivity under adversity. So every player has that reference. So some people have more of a hard time because they make a bad pass. Okay, made a bad pass. Your feeling in that moment
Mm.
doesn't fulfill the role and objective that you should be doing. So you should be focusing on your role, on your objective. If you feel happy or sad or frustrated, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
If you come off the field, now we can talk about your feelings and your frustration and so forth. But while you're playing, you must suppress or you overcome that feeling.
Yeah.
And that's like the definition of mental toughness.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Excellent.
So
Um,
in a short period of time at high school,
mm,
I work on that mental reference. I
yeah.
just and then you'll see the team looks like a team um, in terms of their mentality collectively.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And how have you seen, how's your relationship with them as they are starting to leave the program, leave high school? Do you notice them come back to you at all of I'm not sure how many have come back to you, if they do, on the tools you're providing for them that go far beyond just the field? Have you noticed that? Has anybody ever talked to you about that yet? Your players?
Oh yes, yes, I have a few players that reach out to me and say, hey, you thank you for everything you did, um, the style, etc., and the confidence you gave me, the lessons the talks, etc. I have some parents as well reaching out to me, thank you, and so forth.
Mm.
So yeah, I have quite a few of those.
Yeah, because I feel like what you're bringing to the table to your team, there's very few coaches that are approaching that, at least that I know, right, locally here, that are approaching the sport, that are approaching human interaction, that are approaching the mentality part of it, like you're talking about, right, breaking that down in the ways that you are. And so I feel like if we're able to learn more and tap into, what you're talking about, and to test it, not just take your word for it, because there's one thing that I've come to realize, that just because Coach Fawaz is saying it, that it's going to be true. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you hear something, if you take something in, I think it's also our job is to try things, to try these tactics out, these techniques out, right? These exercises out, look into what you're talking about, right? Look into the specific references you're talking about. What is it that they're saying? What tools or what words can we use? Self-talk. What type of regulations do I need? Emotional regulation. Is what you're saying true? So how important is it for anyone that's listening to not only just hear what you're saying, but actually do their own research and try it on their own, whether you're a parent or even a player or a coach? How important is that for you?
No, it's I think if I understand what you're saying, I think it's like crucial. Um, you see, all of the stuff you mentioned, right? Um, it's all like tools one can use, right?
Yeah.
But I think each and every, just by you being human,
Mm,
you can do a pretty decent job. What the reason I say that is because your fundamental purpose and function is to build connection. Yeah, yeah. I think all the stuff you mentioned about self-talk and so forth, and that's well and good. But I think if any coach, right, he can do a really decent job with the relationship with his players and the parents, so forth, if he purposefully build a connection. Like
mm,
say, for instance, recently I got this player right, and I can see he seems very frustrated. He seems very, you know what I mean. So before I like really deal with him in terms of the game itself, I try to connect with him, and then sometimes I won't speak directly to him, but I'll speak in general. But the message is for him. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But the connection is crucial. You know that, right? I think, but I think I know. I mean, your program and so forth, that kind of almost comes out of your content, and the kids you're dealing with and the parents and all of that, the connection you and your club have with the community it's palpable. You know what I mean? And it's almost like the lifeline of the organization. For me, it feels, if I see that, it feels like it, right? So on a coach to player, etc., the connection is crucial. And then some of those connections you just have to work harder to connect. You can't give up on it, right? I had a situation. The high school situation. I didn't have a great connection with this player, but a great connection with this player. Things kind of went a little bit weird. But then when I'm reflecting, so I said, okay, I'm in charge of like 16 players. I need to find a way to connect. So what happened was I started connecting with him a little bit more, getting to know certain things, school, this, weekends, whatever. Our relationship improved, right? I saw his parents, I'll go over to them, talk, just to kind of get this guy in a little comfortable spot, because what he's experiencing in my assessment was in the game. It was off the game. It wasn't even related to that group. That was my assessment. It was something else he brought in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had to be like, okay, let me do some social engineering over here quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a positive way.
Absolutely. And it comes down again, like you're saying, building that connection and seeing it from, from the point of view of the person, not the player, the person.
Yes.
Right. The person. Now the person always comes first.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Awesome. No, it's been fun. I hope everyone that is watching is finding a lot of value just in, what advice you're giving, and just the answers to the questions. It's been lots of fun. As we wrap up, I want to be able to have anybody that has questions or wants to know more about your program, your coaching, where they can find you. Where can people connect with you?
I'm on Instagram, infinity_soccer_academy_. I'm on Instagram. And that's pretty much where people can find me.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'll be sure to put that in the notes there for the podcast today. So anyone that has questions or maybe just needs some advice or want to know a little bit more about your work and what you share and how you do things, I think people will find a lot of value in that. And what resource, book, website, blog page would you recommend to the viewers? Whether it's a parent, player, coach.
Yeah.
What do you recommend?
What changed my coaching pretty much is the guy Raymond Verheyen. If people Google him, he's world renowned. He's the main educator in the world when it comes to the game. It's a beautiful game.
Yeah.
I would recommend him. There's so many other things I can recommend, but he changed my whole, not idea, but the way I approach the game.
Yeah.
Pretty much, because he's all about objective information and no double standards for the coach, and because his mandate or his motivation is to make coaches better.
Yeah.
So that we can have better people, better coaches, better coaches, better people, and better players in the future.
Yeah. I call him the coach's coach.
Yes, he's amazing. He's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I see you reference him on a few occasions as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
No,
I had the privilege. I had the privilege to meet him personally. Amazing person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's definitely a coach's coach. He definitely can rub people as well the wrong way. I've gotten people that really believe in him, support him, and unconditionally just love him, and those that there's no in between with him. I don't know if you've noticed that when you talk to people.
Yes, no, he has his way, but the way is designed.
Exactly.
And if you understand what he's trying to do, then you understand the paradigm that you're in.
Exactly.
So if you, like, say for instance, you can go over there, listen to the information, and kind of get triggered. and then you won't have a great experience because you're not thinking flexibly.
Yeah.
Or you can go over there and you're like, okay, let me just absorb this information and see how it settles with me. And you'll be like, whoa, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Or you can go over there and you say, if you're a person, I'm like this, I don't get triggered. I enjoy to be uncomfortable.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, you messed up for us. Okay. So teach me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay. I dropped the glass. Oh, I'm sorry. You were bad. You clumsy. No, I'm not clumsy. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Teach me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna buy into it. You know what I mean? You get people that are Raymond says something like this, right? When you receive information, then the stimulus either goes to the prefrontal cortex, where the thinking takes place, the rationale, or the stimulus will go to the amygdala, and the amygdala is the emotional center.
Emotionals, yeah. Yeah.
And if it goes to the amygdala, then now you have an emotional response.
Yeah.
Right? And he's all about like, oh, let's think about this. Let's break it down.
So science.
You know, yeah, let's break it down and let's tackle this point and that point and so forth. But now I come along and I'm like, oh, this and this and that. I become really emotional. He says, okay, leave the emotion aside. Let's do this for a second. And he kind of breaks it down for you.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. You know what I mean? And he tells you why these things are doing. He's amazing. If you just take, what you can do is you can take all the things that you think is good, and you take the things that you don't think is good. But this guy's amazingly beneficial.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I definitely enjoy his in-person courses on the field. Have you seen him on the field as well?
No, I haven't seen him on the field.
I saw him on the field. Yeah. Yeah, you can imagine. You can imagine.
Yeah.
It's fun. I saw him a few years back.
You see, the thing is with Raymond, I kind of understand it because I come from a similar culture. He speaks Dutch. I speak Dutch myself. I speak a dialect of Dutch Afrikaans. The Dutch are tough people. They in your face. They say stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's part of their culture.
Yeah.
Now he comes to the stage. He comes to other parts of the world. He doesn't hide. He says what he says. Now he comes to us here in the United States, and we're very diplomatic, very politically correct, and so forth. He has no business with that stuff.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just like, okay, what is the best practice? What is the right thing to do? What is the most beneficial thing to do? Yeah. All these align with the principles and the values. He's from that perspective.
Yeah.
You know, so
absolutely.
So, yes.
There's so much. So we can probably have another podcast just on that, right? But again, we definitely appreciate your time. I know you're a busy person. You have lots of things going on, but excited to have more people connect with you, share ideas with you, go back and forth just on, maybe exercise they can do, with the teams. But overall, I hope everybody that is watching, players, parents, coaches, were able to take something and hopefully take it to their own environment, take it to their own home, their own, tribe, and make it their own, right? And more importantly, grow. The reason behind these podcasts is for everyone, that is involved in the sport, that deals with humans and that is connected through this game, is able to improve, right? And so again, Coach Fawaz, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me, and you providing the platform for local coaches. And there's something I definitely learned from your organization and from you that comes through everything. And I've been using it in my vocabulary.
Good.
Growing the game.
Yeah.
Seriously, I've heard you said it many times in your posts, in your podcast, and so forth, and that kind of really resonated with me. And now I'm actually using it, not for the just sake of using it, but I think to kind of put some meaning to it. Because the thing is this, whatever, if you coach high school, if you coach club, if you coach recreation, whatever you coach, right? You're always trying to add to the game. And if you have that broader philosophical idea, then you are going to, you're more open for learning and you're more open for expanding, to collaborate, etc., right? In order to grow, because like I tell my teams, actually, I tell them there's a big fundamental. Life is a team sport. Nobody's successful just by themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And therefore, on the field itself, you must show that cohesiveness, that togetherness, the idea of all for one and one for all. Right. I share this with them. I say, look, I tell them, I ask them, why are you here? Practices games. They say, I'm here to have fun. I'm here to improve. I'm here to, so I tell, so everybody says this, right? And so I give everybody a chance to say this, and they say something very similar, right? So then I come along and I say, I'm going to tell you why you're here. You are here to make your teammates better.
Yeah.
Because that's the highest form of self. Because if you are here just for yourself, then you will grow minimally. But if you are here for other on the field or in the squad, if yeah, so I tell my boys, I tell them why they're here. So I tell them, you're actually here to help your team, your teammates, the other 10 on the field. Now imagine 10 other players are just here to help you. That's 10 players helping you. So if everybody has the mentality, then the individual will grow exponentially.
Mm.
And therefore the saying all for one and one for all, because if you can imbibe that, you can embrace that, then you have a real team, because there's now you are selfless, and selfless is the highest form of self.
Absolutely. And that's how we're trying to grow the game.
That's it. That's growing the game. For me, that's growing the game.
That's right. That's right. Awesome.
That's it.
Hey, thank you so much again, Coach, for your time, your insight, your knowledge. Hopefully we can do it again in the near future.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.